Hello again, Center for Spiritual Living, Denver. How wonderful it is to be with you. I always enjoy my opportunities to visit here with you. And for everyone watching out online, what camera are you on this one? For everybody watching out online, welcome and thanks for joining us as well today. There's a big word in our title for today's talk, interspirituality. And it's a unique word because it was coined by Reverend Dr. Father Keating many, many years ago. He made his transition a bit ago now. And the philosophy or the theory of interspirituality, which we're going to dig into in a minute here, speaks to, well, an experience of oneness. And it emerges throughout time, really. And in 2013, there was a book written called The Coming Interspiritual Age that asked many questions. And I believe, based on my experiences of this year, that New Thought, as a philosophy, as a faith, as a way of life, is entering an interspiritual age. We may not know it. And I'll share a little bit of this as we go along. There are some that definitely don't know it within the New Thought movement, but more and more and more people are coming to realize just what this thing called oneness really means. It's not a theory. It's an activity. It's a way of life. So if you'll pull up our first slide there for us real quick, we're going to jump right in to the definition of interspirituality. It is the sharing of ultimate experiences across traditions, the religion of the third millennium. Now, we're going to come to that word religion in just a minute or two because I personally have a few issues with that word. Some of you may as well. Interspirituality is the foundation that can prepare the way for the planet-wide enlightened culture and a continuing community among the religions that is substantial, vital, and creative. So why would we have a problem with that? I have found in my travels and in my years that people mix up the concepts of religion a little bit. Now, in the world, if we look at the whole planet, the vast majority of human beings fall into one of 5 religions. So we'll take that next slide, Paul. And in order, they are Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Judaism. New Thought doesn't fall in there anywhere, does it? Well, except that there is New Thought in Judaism. And I happen to know a New Thought Muslim minister very well, sitting in this very room, actually. So if you're wondering, we can talk about that a little later. And when you look at the traditional New Thought organizations, communities, you see a lot of Buddhism. And a lot of people migrate from Buddhism into New Thought. It's definitely a gateway for New Thought. And what it is religion, by its definition, is organized worship of a deity or a god. But we really don't do that, do we? I don't know very many New Thoughters that get down on bended knee and prostrate themselves and beg, oh, please, please, please me. It could be said that perhaps we worship an experience of oneness. To me, that doesn't really quite fall into the whole religion category, if you follow along with us here. So I want to encourage us as we go along today and look at this concept of interspirituality to recognize anywhere where there might be the word religion, how do we shift that just a little bit and create a little more New Thought in our religion, in that concept. I want to go to the next slide as well, please, Paul. Thank you. And this is an encapsulation of what Alice shared with us earlier, so thank you for doing that. What ties us together is a shared desire to connect with the ground of being in a way that fully respects our differences. This is New Thought. This is interspirituality. Because interspirituality speaks about sharing in those traditions, sharing in our experience across the traditions. That doesn't mean that it's okay to say, yep, you can go to the synagogue, and yep, you can pray 5 times a day, and yep, you can spin a prayer wheel. It isn't tolerance. It's engagement. It's connection. Interspirituality calls us to sit in the synagogue and experience those traditions. It calls us to find someone that practices the Islamic faith and really learn the similarities and practice together. I had a great opportunity to do that earlier this year. It's called the Parliament of the World's Religions. And I want to talk about that in a couple minutes as well. However, before we get there, I think we have to set this up just a little bit more with a quote by Michael Beckwith. We'll go to that next slide, please, Paul. We have been given this precious human incarnation in which each and every one of us is a candidate for enlightenment. Scratch the word candidate. I love Michael Beckwith. He gets it right. But I want to get rid of the word candidate, because that to me implies that you got to go prove to somebody, to me or someone else, that you are enlightened. Folks, if you haven't heard it before, I'm here to say it. You already are enlightened. You came into this world enlightened. You are a being of light. Now, we had to learn along the way a lot of human conditioning and then unlearn a lot of human conditioning along the way. However, you are an enlightened being. The only thing that we got to really do, if you will, is cast aside the doubts, cast aside our own judgments of ourselves, and be willing to say, yes, I am enlightened. Who's willing to say that with me? Anybody? I am enlightened. All right, now like we really mean it. I am enlightened. Now, like we want the divine to hear us. I am enlightened. Can you say that every morning? Can you say that when you're waiting in line at the bank? All right, nobody waits in lines at banks anymore. Can you say that when you're waiting in line at the supermarket? Most of us don't wait in lines in supermarkets anymore either. How about when somebody cuts you off in traffic? You all know that's my thing. That's that place for me that gives me the ultimate opportunity to say, okay, do I really practice what I believe? See, that's the point. New Thought is a faith and a philosophy. We have to believe it. We have to worship our faith like we would any other faith. It's a philosophy that combines all of the ancient wisdoms and oftentimes many modern revelations and realizations, and brings all of that in and creates a philosophy of oneness. But most important, it's a way of life. If we're not living it, then what are we doing? If we're not living this stuff. On Tuesday, Reverend Elzia and I had a great opportunity to sit down and share with what I call one of the premier eminent New Thought thinkers on the planet, even though he may not call himself New Thought. And that is Sharif Abdullah. Now, Sharif wrote a book, we'll take that next slide, please, Paul, called A World That Works for All. And in that, he writes, a world that works for all is not achievable without restructuring our priorities, our attitudes, and our culture. It's not going to happen unless we restructure our priorities, our attitudes, and our culture. We cannot tinker with this. The change must be fundamental, an evolutionary shift towards spiritual compassion and corresponding shifts in our action, In short, a transformation of head, heart, and hand. We must work on ourselves first and then be prepared to do the work on our culture and our institutions. Now, I have a pretty good feeling that if you're even sitting in this room, if you're watching online, you've already done the work individually. I look around and I see practitioners and I see ministers, and I know some of the people that said they would really wanted to watch this talk online that are ministers and practitioners. You've done the work. Remember, you already are enlightened. We just got to peel away that shroud that says, no, I'm not. Or how can I be that? I can't stand up in front of everybody and say that I'm enlightened. What are they going to say about me on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or any of the others? We must work on ourselves first and then be prepared to do the work on our culture and our institutions. Now, notice he says culture first. We can't just rush into the bank and say, everybody praise God. We can't jump out of our car at a red light and go do a spiritual mind treatment for the driver in front of us so that they would learn how to drive better. Might do that in our car while we're at the red light, but don't get out of your car to do it. And I believe the way to change our culture is to live this. And yes, it is to live it in our institutions. It is to recognize that when we hear words like homeless, that we translate that to the unhoused. When we hear slurs against our friends of color, sexual orientation, anything in the world, when we hear those slurs, we take the time to say, no, that is not what it is. That's not how we do it. That's not how any of this works. When we do the work in our culture simply by being who you are, you don't have to go out in the streets and march. You don't have to show up at a shelter and volunteer. We would suggest you do, because it's a good way to get out of our own bubble. And I know that you're going to hear a little bit more a little bit later. Centers for Spiritual Living Denver is embarking upon a service project in the near future. I personally plan to be here. I've already got it on my calendar. When you learn about it, I'm going to invite you to take out your device and put it on your calendar. But it doesn't have to be get out in the streets and do the work. It can be doing the work by simply forgiving someone for their trespasses. It can be just by simply lifting someone up, whether they know it or not, and say, I praise you and I raise you and I lift you up to a higher understanding of truth. Can you say that one with me? I praise you and I raise you to a greater understanding of truth. I raise you and praise you to a greater understanding of truth. See, together, I believe we are creating the future that we've been working towards. And I believe we've actually already created that future. It's just not totally widespread yet. It's not everywhere. We're going to skip a slide here, Paul, and head down to the next one, the one in blue. There it is. So I mentioned the Parliament of World Religions. When I learned that I would be attending the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago this year, I was incredibly excited. And truthfully, we set an intention about a year and a half ago for New Thought Media Network to be able to attend. And what happened is we gathered up a few sponsors and a few organizations that wanted to believe in us. They gave us enough money to go shoot a documentary. We are right now editing that documentary, and you can anticipate seeing that probably around Thanksgiving. Everything goes according to plan, but we know what they say. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So my plan is around Thanksgiving, we'll see how the divine lines up with that or not. However, what I want you to know about the Parliament of World Religions is, this is an organization that's been happening, well, I'm going to say the organization started in 1993. The very first convening of the Parliament of World Religions happened in 1893 at the Chicago's World Fair. This is where Yogananda gave his first speech in America. His first talk in America was at the Parliament of World Religions in 1893. It took him a whole 100 years to decide it was time to have another one. And many say that that speech by Yogananda was the birth of the modern interfaith movement. How many people have heard that word? That's the tolerance. That's where people and leaders from various organizations to get together and say, you know, it's cool for you to be you, but it would still be better if you were us. And it's cool for you to practice that way, and we might even sit in a little bit, but it would still be better if you did it the way we did it. Nothing wrong with that. It's the first step towards interspirituality. Now, since 1993, when they decided to do it again, there have been this year was the ninth actual convening of a Parliament of World Religions. They don't happen every year. They don't happen every 3 years. Sometimes it's been 5 years in between. It's been 8 years in between. It's been 3 years in between. The most recent ones were Salt Lake City in 2015. 2018 was Toronto. And here in 2023, we were in Chicago. If you ask me, I'm going to bet the next one won't be in North America, because the Parliament has been to Barcelona and other European countries along the way. But what happened was about somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 people from all of the world's religions. And by the way, New Thought is considered one of the official world's religions at this point, according to the Parliament. We all got together for a week. And what I loved was nobody came in beating their chest saying we're the best. Everybody gave what they had. Everybody brought who they were. And everybody that I met across an entire week came with a curiosity of how we all work together. Not once did I have somebody come up to me and say, so what religion are you? What faith do you follow? People introduce themselves by saying, hi, how are you today? And we danced together, and we laughed together, and we listened to great speakers together, and we had great panel discussions together. And if anybody's familiar with the Sikh community, we had longer for lunch every day of the week. Now, when was the last time you went to a conference of 8,000 people and there was free lunch every day of the week? The Sikh community brought their heart to feed this experience, to nourish us, to keep more money in our pockets so we didn't have to go spend overpriced, a lot of money for small little sandwiches. And the Buddhist community created experiences throughout the event. And the New Thought community, we had our largest contingency of New Thought people at this conference ever, at the Parliament ever. We were interspiritual. We didn't care, we didn't look, we didn't ask who and how and why. We just were. We were together. It was an amazing experience. And what I came to realize is that I believe that as a movement, New Thought has come to a place where we must ask ourselves if we're willing to support New Thought wherever it may show up in the world and however it may look, no matter what it might look like. I believe if we can do that, we will develop a deeper sense of oneness. And what I know is at the level of the upper leadership, let's say, there is definitely a desire for New Thought to come together and support the uprising of this philosophy, faith, way of life, wherever it might be. I was in Mexico earlier this year at the Convention of the Americas. and a Spanish-speaking convention that is pure New Thought, pure science of mind, and it's translated English to Spanish and Spanish to English the whole week. Everything you do is translated for you. And if you're learning how to speak Spanish, it's a great way to immerse yourself in the language. And the Spanish folks say the same thing. They get to listen to the translation of English speakers, and they get a sense of the feeling, the vibration, the tonality of what we bring to this thing called life. An amazing opportunity. Next year, in late January, early February, New Thought Media Network, a group of us will be going to Kenya. There is a Center for Spiritual Living in Kenya, in Nairobi. Been there a while now. Before the pandemic, they would have an annual retreat. Because of the pandemic, they haven't. This is the first time they're having their retreat again. And we're going not as a organization that says, here's how you do it. Here's the bylaws, here's this, here's that. You fill in your name, and this is how you do it. And if you don't do it our way, well, you have a problem. I think we had a conversation about that earlier before. Organizations that want you to do it your way, their way. What we're doing is we're going there with an authentic and open heart to listen deeply to what the people of Kenya want, what the divine wants to bring forward in Kenya, and how we can support that, not teach them how to do it. The story of feeding a man a fish or teaching a man to fish comes to mind. I believe that organizations, whether it's Centers for Spiritual Living, the Unity Movement, whether it's Agape International Spiritual Center, whether it's Hillside, whether it's the Universal Foundation for Better Living, no matter what organization, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, the Association for Global New Thought, a lot of four-letter acronyms floating around at these things, trust me. New Thought Media Network. There is a desire to support the uprising of New Thought, whatever it's going to look like and however it's going to show up. Not just demanding that it be one way or another. But that's going to take people. One of the other things I've come to believe wholeheartedly is that every one of us has been called to serve humanity's evolution in an awe-inspiring way. Because what I know, and I've watched many of you for years now, been in this Denver market for almost 15 years myself now. Many of us have bumped into each other over the years and along the way. And what I have seen is every one of you has that within you, has something. And when you bring who you are, absolutely authentically, who you really are, not what some organization tells you you're supposed to be, not following some formula that was created 100 years ago, but when you take the wealth, the breadth of your knowledge, of your wisdom, of your shared lived experience, and bring that to bear as a way of life, there's nothing that can stop us. There's nothing that can get in the way of New Thought standing on a world stage. And I tell you, when Michael Beckwith stood on that stage in Chicago, the world was listening. And when Marianne Williamson stood on that stage in Chicago, the world was listening. When we spoke our truth in panel discussions, and when we spoke our truth hanging out at the booth, it's a conference, everybody's got a booth, everybody's selling something. I was very happy. None of the New Thought booths were trying to sell anything. You could buy a nice, brass bowl that was 5 times more expensive than it would be if you bought it downtown tomorrow at this thing. Nobody was trying to push. Like our Jones quote said, nobody was trying to convert. We were creating a world that works for all. We were creating a vision of a new culture. And what I trust is all of those restaurants around the area, all those hotel workers, everybody was working in all the hotel. We filled up like 4 major hotels, 8,000 people. It's not all in one hotel. Everyone in that neighborhood that was touched by someone from that conference that week, I believe, went home with a greater sense of love in their heart. And a greater, well, they may not know it, but a greater calling to be a part of something. You know, we call ourselves a movement, but I see a lot of people sitting around waiting for a Messiah, waiting for somebody to direct them what to do. It's time we make the movement move. I think it's time we make this movement move. And we'll go to our last slide there too, because this wouldn't be complete in my mind if I didn't bring a little bit of Ernest Holmes into the conversation. This is a quote he wrote at one point. Today, I guard my thoughts and speech. I keep my consciousness steadfast with the realization that there is a spiritual power and strength upon which I may call. If confusion enters, I shall repudiate it. I turn resolutely to that divine source that knows no confusion, to that spiritual center within me that knows no fear. Now, when he says I guard my thoughts and speech, he doesn't mean that I'm hiding them. He doesn't mean that I'm not speaking my truth. What he means is I'm very conscious and very specific in what I say. I'm very specific in what I claim for myself. I am very specific in what I call into my life. A lot of people, when they come into this movement, they're taught, well, if you say something you don't like I hate that person. You just say erase, 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 cancel, 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 and that takes care of it. No. Sorry. Doesn't work like that. We have to be willing to be specific and guarded and intentional with our speech. I keep my consciousness steadfast that the realization that there is a spiritual power and strength upon which I call, upon which I stand, upon whose shoulders I reside. And I shall repudiate any confusion. That's not how it works, folks. I was in an experience recently where I had the unfortunate experience of witnessing someone really just an ugly put down of someone else. And I stood up and I said, that's not going to stand. That's not going to stand. You cannot continue to keep treating people like that. And it may be something small, but whatever it is for you, I believe it is our turn to be a spiritual center, to be a center of spiritual experience and truth, and live that in the world and speak that out into the world. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We have created a future that we've been working towards. This movement has brought us to this point, and now it is our responsibility to lift that up and take it forward. Are you willing? Are you willing?
Yes.
Then let's pray. Let's take that moment to set aside any concerns or questions about the future, about how or why or when. Take this moment to turn within and to recognize that you are a divine expression of the One. You are an absolute, magnificent, enlightened being on this planet. Who you are, what you bring to the world is absolutely vital, absolutely necessary to the evolution of human consciousness. And so we recognize the oneness of life, the beauty, the power, the presence, the source, the supply, abundance, prosperity. It is all already within us, for we are already an expression of the enlightened one. We are the enlightened ones. And so I claim for each a sense of stepping forth from this moment, stepping forth into this day, into the rest of this week, into the next week, and the days beyond, and the month beyond, and the months beyond that, as a way of life, as a vision of a way of life, of a world that works for all. A world that works for all life, not just mine. I claim for each one here a deep sense of really knowing it is good. Life is good. I claim for each a sense of knowing that there is really only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is perfect. So that life must be your life, my life, right now. And I claim for each a sense of peace. As we ripple that sense of peace out across the planet, uplifting and inspiring all of life, no matter where it may be. We speak a special word this day for the people of Morocco and their experiences. We speak a special word of peace for anywhere where it may appear there is not peace. And what I know is with the various places around the planet where we appear to be experiencing war, what we're really experiencing is a release of that concept of war, so that peace may rise up where it may, where it is, where everywhere. We speak a word of healing for everyone that may feel afflicted, affected, or oppressed. But most especially, we speak that word of yes. Yes, I am willing, and yes, I shall. I shall walk with my head held high, living this philosophy and this faith in creating a way of life. And so I am grateful for this time, grateful for this community, grateful for this opportunity, most especially grateful to know that God's got this and I get out of the way. We release this word into the universal law, the universal principle of truth, of creation, that is right now already manifesting the connections, the people, the opportunities, the resources to fulfill this prayer, to fulfill this word. And I let it be. And so it is. Thank you for being with us.
Just a little bit of time. If it serves my highest good, then it will be mine. I do believe I will receive. I just have to know and then declare it to be so with an open mind. Just a little bit of time. If it serves my highest good, then it will be mine. I do believe I will receive. I will receive. I just have to know. I just have to know and then declare it to be so with an open mind. With an open mind. Just a little bit of time. Just a little bit of time now. If it serves my highest good, then it will be mine. I do believe. I will receive. I will receive. I just have to know. Just have to know. And then declare it to be so with an open mind. And just a little bit of time. If it serves my highest good, then it is mine. I do believe. I will receive. I will receive. I just have to know. Just have to know. And then declare it to be so with an open mind. Just a little bit of time. receive. I just have to know and then declare it to be so with an open mind. Just a little bit of time. If it serves my highest good, then it is mine. Anything I want, it is mine. Anything I want, it is mine. Perfect health, it is mine. Perfect health, it is mine. Joy and peace, yeah, it is mine. Joy and peace, it is mine. Love, 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 it is mine. Love, 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 it is mine. If it serves my highest good, it is mine. If it serves my highest good, it is mine. If it serves my highest good, it